All right, we'll call our end of session, and we have 2 amendments to the agenda today.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the agenda with the amendments as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
First item on our agenda is invoices, commissioners report, and department request. So I had a couple questions, and I talked with Christy, and we got them all answered. So I'm good with that.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the invoices and commissioner report as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 It's already been approved, I just need the formal authorization for it. And the coding is on the top right-hand corner. I coded it out of potential litigation. I didn't have a signed copy, so I figured we could just...
That's just for you.
Let's go down this one.
That's that litigation settlement.
Yeah. You want another signature, you said?
Just on the top, just to authorize the payment. I figured that one would be better to have the commission approve rather than Brady.
So go ahead and sign
Even though we probably could have. And then I'll get a signed page, because it's already signed. Amy just didn't have it,
Okay, okay.
so.
All right. We did vote.
Did we?
Too many talks. Salary rate approval forms. Internship approval. There's an earn a star.
Like that, I can make sure whoever has that copy.
Probably doesn't have John's name on it either.
See if I have that one.
It does have John's.
It has John, just has earn a star. All right, salary rate approval forms.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the salary rate approval forms as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next we have a certificate of residency. This way and then have Nancy sign. And then certificate of residency.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve that certificate of residency as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And now we have an application for direct bill, Cobblestone Inns and Suites in Soda Springs, Idaho.
What's that for?
Boya, it's Holiday Inn, Boya. Boise? No? Business references.
Zandrick. Sorry, let me see it. What is this one?
Looks like a direct pay.
In Soda Springs, Idaho?
Oh, it's just a direct bill. So we must be having a training down there. That we need to do a,
Who's we?
the
Courts?
county. so that I can have an answer for you instead of having to call. Hey, Kim and Kristen, we have a direct bill for the Cobblestone Inn in Soda. Who requested this? Jason and I did. So we have some court employees maybe that are going down there for an overnighter? Okay. Okay, perfect.
It's probably just you.
Thank you. Jason died, so it must be court-related in some fashion. And that way, they just won't have to take a credit card for the hotel. And we use the standard same vendors usually. When we fill out banking reference, I refuse to give anything other than the bank that we use. We don't give any other banking information, and then we just use trade reference.
So what am I supposed to sign?
Yeah.
Probably where she. Oh, Brian, there's an individual personal guarantee. We usually don't sign that, do we?
Is that the direct bill? But that's the guarantees with the county, right, is what they're talking about. Can I see it?
You know what, let's put this off till Tuesday.
Okay. I have no problem with that. Doesn't have a sticker. I don't know what to sign. A lot of lines there.
Well, and I'll tell her not to sign, and maybe you would sign where she's at, and we would like to do this.
Okay.
We'll bring it back.
All right. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead.
Can we do this first?
Yep.
That way.
Is
That where you're going?
that's where we're headed. Get this out of here.
All right.
I'm going to turn time over to you.
All right, Mr. Chair, we have a proclamation, and I would like to read it. So, our proclamation, whereas the juvenile courts and county juvenile probation offices have become the point of contact for intervention and prevention services, and whereas the statutes offending and low to moderate risk youth make up many of the youth formerly involved in the juvenile justice and child welfare systems in the 6th Judicial District, and whereas statutes offending and low to moderate risk youth have a higher success rate when connected to early intervention and prevention services through proper support, screening, assessment, and resources, and whereas the Bannock County Commissioners recognize the importance of struggling youth and families having access to services and resources without needing a referral from law enforcement or schools, and whereas Bannock County has awarded a grant from the Idaho Department of Juvenile Justice in 2022 to establish a Safe Teen Assessment Center for the youth and families in the 6th Judicial Court at 345 North 5th Avenue in Pocatello, and whereas the Safe Teen Assessment Center as a single point of contact, screening, assessments, case management, and services is expected to provide a significant decrease in the youth being processed through the court and entering the juvenile justice and child welfare systems, and whereas the ultimate goal of the Safe Teen Assessment Center is to reduce the number of juveniles entering the juvenile justice and child welfare systems while empowering our youth and families to be successful in all areas of life. And now therefore we, the Bannock County Commissioners, John Crowder, Jeff Huff, and Ernie Moser, do hereby proclaim the Safe Teen Assessment Center in Bannock County to be named The Village, a place for youth and families. There we go.
You're not alone, are you?
And then in conjunction with that, if we could have Todd Maugher come up. We've done a few of these, and we have our commissioner's coins. Come on over here, Todd. And a couple years ago as commissioners, we decided that our goal was to find a way to award those employees that went above and beyond to do something special. And so, can't help myself. I want to award Todd Mauger for his efforts in putting this together. A commissioner's coin. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shelley did.
Let's get one more picture.
Come on over, John.
Tall guys in the middle.
Good looking guys in the middle.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you again, my friend. Good job. All right, Dan, Whitworth, Ashley, come on up.
I'm sorry, I'm not good with cameras.
Takes me a picture for the little break.
Come on in.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, over here. All right. Same thing, only hopefully I got myself under control this time.
That's all right.
But you guys went above and beyond in sacrificing to help hit the date for the Safety and Assessment Center, put in exceeding amount of hours, and still maintained all the other duties that you have. And so again, in recognition for going above and beyond the call of duty and doing something special, we wanted to award each of you the Commissioner's Coin and say thank you for a job well done. All right, congratulations. Thank you. Dan, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just say, we don't give these coins out to just anybody. It's one of the things when we decided to do this, it was, you're gonna earn it. And all of you.
Thank you.
Way to represent the county and your efforts over there. Like Jeff says, a deadline like that, nobody meets that deadline. We've talked to people and they are impressed, so thank you.
Daniel has.
All right, one more good picture.
All
Did
right,
you get us?
everyone. Okay. Okay, let me get one more. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emma.
Good job.
All right. Chief, you're up. We need to go into Board of Ambulance.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we enter into the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Good morning, Commissioners. Ryan O'Hearn, Bannock County Ambulance District. Just wanted to come before you to provide an opportunity to answer any questions and provide some clarification. I know during the budget meetings that there were some questions about the capital asks specifically related to the station alerting, and then also maybe less during the budget discussion, but I know when I first appeared there were some questions about deployments, and so I wanted to provide you with some better information. And since that time, particularly on the capital ask for the station alerting, I have much better numbers than I had during our budget presentation in June. So I'd like to just start with maybe the capital component and just kind of revisit the four items on our capital ask. The ambulance remount, as we discussed, I believe I didn't look at which date it came before the commission for approval, but it was earlier in the summer, and this is the one that we've kind of been pushed back on our capital plan with our ambulances because of chassis, obtaining chassis. And so the ambulance that is on the capital ask right now, we were actually supposed to take delivery of this year, but we won't take delivery of it until FY24. So that's the reason for that being.
And it's a carryover. From
Well, it is.
23 to 24. I mean,
But there was a
we didn't spend the
carryover.
money, so
But we did carry over an ambulance that we were anticipating in '22 that we executed in '23. So we kind of have been a year behind for the past 2 years in our capitals.
So what we put in next year's budget is $538,000. We put in $100,000 or $168,000 for a remount. And then there was some discussion on what the remaining $370 would be used for.
okay.
So, and then I want to spend the most of my time on the station alerting, so maybe I'll just skip to the grant real quick. We had included $100,000 for an assistance to firefighters grant that we were approved to apply for. And this was as we started talking about expansion into South County. We were looking for grant opportunities to potentially fund some of that growth with the capital assets. So this grant, the ambulance portion of this grant is about $260,000. The district would be responsible for a 10% match on that. The reason for the $100,000 ask on that grant was to outfit it with a cardiac monitor and Lucas device, power load cot, and system. So we think that if we were awarded that grant and we are expanding, that would be great value. Obviously, we wouldn't execute this money unless we were awarded the grant from AFG. Unfortunately, they are very backed up, still recovering from COVID. We don't know the disposition of that grant as of this morning.
But the intent for this grant is to equipment for the McCammon ambulance
Yeah.
bay.
We were just looking at opportunities. As I said, we wouldn't execute this unless we were awarded, and then there will be opportunities next year with the Idaho EMS grant that we could potentially, if we had a more firm timeline for McCammon and plan. We have been very successful with state grants for ambulances. So,
I've actually got a quick update that pertains. I talked to Aaron Hunziker. He was asking about values so that they knew if they were going to put this on the levy. They're anticipating not even breaking ground until the spring of next year. So this is something that could probably be delayed since there won't be anywhere to put it.
Do they have a estimated completion date if they do it in the spring? Are they like an 8-month build? Or?
I didn't get any farther than that.
Okay.
So, and so we can, I need to reach out to Carly and stuff, so we can add that as a later discussion.
We need to invite them in and have this discussion on the record.
That would be great.
So that we know, because our commitments with ARPA funds,
Yes.
we have a deadline. And if we're pushing it back a year or so, we gotta know.
Well, I'm okay with going forward with this, with the realization that it probably won't be.
we have the assistance to firefighters grants. They kind of, on these apparatus grants, they really key in on the state of your current infrastructure and fleet. We have been very good with grants through the state and with money appropriated through capital by the commissioners to improve our fleet. I think it's unlikely that we may get this grant, but it was kind of a long shot. We have gotten some EMS grants through AFG in the past, so we did try it, and we are waiting to hear. I'm confident that we should hear, hopefully by October, but I would have hoped that we had been informed before today, and so I'm sorry that I don't know the disposition of that grant at this time.
And so, just real quick, if we did this, then the $25,000 would come out of the 377 that you.
The 370, or yes, the 370.
Okay.
So,
Do we need a motion on that one, or do we?
Honestly,
Let's finish.
until we finalize the budget,
Okay.
I would rather vote on it, because we haven't finalized that budget yet, and I don't want to commit money that we haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd just like to, and I've got two more items. The one was the staff vehicle, and I think I kind of covered that one. The commission actually approved this purchase in April of 2022. We had a very short ordering window, and then we discussed the option with procurement of maybe leasing a vehicle, and so we missed that window, and we didn't execute this. And so this is kind of one that I was bringing back to try to, and I did provide you with some information there on that second page of the capital supporting documentation that kind of shows you which support vehicles are provided by the ambulance district, and which are provided by the fire district or fire department for those positions that have a vehicle that are shared positions with EMS and fire. So the ambulance district has traditionally supplied 2 of the 9 vehicles that we have there. So, and then the item that I wanted to spend the most time on is the station alerting. And when I presented in June, I did not have a firm estimate on this system. We were anticipating the working number at that time was 611,000. And we knew that we needed to look to the future for a station alerting solution for McCammon. And so that's why we were anticipating the price of the total package to be somewhere in the $750,000 range. So we asked for 370, which would be a 50-50 cost share between the city and the county for this infrastructure. Since then, Motorola and Day Wireless have come back with a much better price at $499,999 for the 5 stations. This does not include, it includes an option for McCammon, but we just wanted to take care of the must-haves now. And so that's $100,000 per station. One of the stations is actually in Power County at the Pocatello Airport, and so we're not asking the county for a cost share on that. There is not an ambulance station at that facility, but we are asking for just a 50-50 cost share between the city and the county for the remaining 4 stations, which would be $400,000 of infrastructure. And so the county's portion would be $200,000 on that project. We feel this is vital infrastructure, and we feel that this demonstrates a good collaboration between the 2 entities to address the needs of all of the citizens on the ambulance district side and the fire side. And then I would just, as we continue to keep this McCammon Fire Station in mind, we will need to ensure that we're addressing those needs. But it sounds like that timeline has been pushed back a little bit. Any questions?
So have you sent this out for bid? Have you followed procurement
So we
procedures?
we have HGAC cooperative purchasing pricing on this, and then we also, the commission, I believe, and Adam McKinney can speak maybe better to this than I can. I know that this is direct infrastructure that's going to be tied into our radio consoles and our radio network. And so my understanding is that the county has a sole source agreement with Motorola for the backbone infrastructure that is part of the 911 system and dispatching system. And we want a direct tie-in with our Spillman CAD, which is a Motorola product. We don't want to rely on application program interfaces or programs that people write for us to have one system talk to another. And so that's why we're hoping to go with the Motorola system. I will say that we have looked at other systems, and particularly with this pricing, it is actually more competitive than some of the other systems we've looked at. So we feel like we're in line.
You're nodding your head.
Well,
Go ahead, come on up.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam McKinney, 911 Communications. The existing system as it is today does not tie directly into our Motorola equipment. It's a patched system, so they have to move that patch around based on which fire station is up and which is running at the time. So there are connections that have to be made between our outgoing and the radio paging system, which is one of the major reasons that this thing has some issues in its longevity, its lifespan is the other issue. This new system, he's correct. We have done the sole source with Day and Motorola for our 911 system. This is a direct plug into our existing 911 system and our future plans for Vesta upgrades. So we're not replacing it with a standalone system. If this were approved, this would be a plug-in and it would become a part of the 911 infrastructure, whereas currently it kind of stands alone.
And I just would point out that we're trying to think big on this. In fact, we had considered a regional grant for this alerting system for the entire county. Unfortunately, this item was specifically excluded from grant consideration last year. But the nice thing about this system and tying directly with our radio consoles and our Spillman CAD, which is the computer-aided dispatch system that we use to manage our call volume on the sheriff, Chubbuck, and city, Pocatello, and EMS side, allows dispatch centers to talk to each other. And so we really feel like this is a big system-wide solution rather than just solving a problem for one agency.
So what would happen if we only had one dispatch center?
Well, the
With the
thing
cost
now
for
is that
them.
the only dispatch center that can use this radio page out is PPD. With the new system, all of the dispatch centers would be able to use it. And if we were to consolidate them in the future or bring them together, they would continue to be able to use them. The technicals of the dispatch centers now, there are 3 locations, but they are technically all one center from a technical standpoint, from a compute, the network and connectivity. But right now, this is the one piece that only PPD can access because it's in their dispatch center, the patches are in their fire departments, and they alert their stations. Bannock County can't page out on this system, neither can Chubbuck. Only PPD can. So the idea here is if we plugged in this new system, it's then available via Vesta console at all the centers, no matter how many we add. Each station, each dispatch center, I should say, PSAP, could then utilize this system. So right now, as a contingency, if there were an issue in Chubbuck, the Chubbuck dispatchers can go to PPD or Bannock and log in and dispatch for Chubbuck Police Department or Chubbuck Fire. But they can't send out a page and alert to the PPD of the ambulance. If PPD were to go down, there would be no access to that paging system as it's currently designed. So with this new system, it would be locked into the Vesta level, and it would work from all the dispatch locations regardless of where we were.
You said there's 3 dispatch locations?
There are 3 locations physically, but from a technical standpoint, and it's kind of semantics, but they are technically one
What are the 3
flatland.
locations?
What's that?
What are the 3 locations?
Chubbuck Police Department out in on Yellowstone. It was the old Chet City Hall. PPD is at 911 North 7th and in the Bannock County Sheriff's Office.
And so with this money we're talking about here, what are the organizations that benefit from us doing this? It sounds like beneficiaries would be Pocatello Police Department, Pocatello Fire Department, Chubbuck, Bannock County. It sounds like there are a lot of entities that benefit from this.
Yeah, the EMS, this is primarily EMS and fire related, this page out type system.
But not completely.
Well, again, all the dispatch centers would benefit from this because you'd be able to have redundancy to use this system from either either Bannock County or Chubbuck, whereas currently you don't have that access.
Does Chubbuck Fire use it now?
No, I believe Chubbuck Fire uses a rip and run system. They have an alerting system that comes out of Spillman. It's different than this, and it doesn't go over the radios.
They're actually considering this option as well for their station alerting solution, so.
Would this, what we're doing, be all they need for them to tie in and start using this, or do they need additional?
They would need to buy the infrastructure that would go in their dispatching center and in their stations. But once they do that and they're on the same software, because our CADs are all tied, and he's much more technically savvy than I am, then it would allow, and my vision is that it will allow, even if we don't move them all into one building, if we all have common operating procedures, it would allow Chubbuck, for example, to maybe dispatch the ambulance instead of transferring the call to Pocatello to dispatch the ambulance, which will be better response times for our citizens. So I think this is a system-wide solution.
Right. But I think you're asking for the cost to be split amongst only 2 entities. Is that right?
Correct, but Chubbuck would pay their portion because they would need to buy the same infrastructure.
They would need the equipment at the fire stations in order for this to
I'm
work.
asking for a cost share for the infrastructure that is directly tied to dispatching and notification of fire and EMS units. Because right now, the city of Pocatello PSAP dispatches for the entire county for EMS. And
So these other entities that we're talking about are still going to derive a benefit from this?
I believe so, absolutely, because it streamlines the dispatchability for the outlier PSAPs. They don't currently, like as Chief O'Hearn just mentioned, right now, if Bannock County takes a call that needs an ambulance, they have to transfer that call to a dispatcher at City of Pocatello. Whereas once this is all in place, that equipment, that ability would be able to be dispatched out of those other PSAPs.
I guess I'm wondering why the cost wouldn't be shared more widely.
Oh, that,
Well,
I don't know.
It opens up possibilities, but Chubbuck would still have to purchase their own system and be on the same system that we are. And right now, Motorola wrote an option you can see in the back of the contract to add 2 more stations at about $100,000. And the idea was potentially Chubbuck and potentially McCammon.
So Chubbuck doesn't currently have the
They do not.
alerting system in their station?
No,
No.
that's right, they don't have it.
They're on an old system just like we are, but we're all in discussions together about kind of a system-wide improvement that
So all
will,
we're talking about today is the 4 stations
existing
Correct.
that we participate in through the ambulance district.
correct.
That might answer why Chubbuck's not involved.
Yeah, Chubbuck doesn't have an ambulance in their station.
Yeah, I'm still wondering about the, the cost share. I don't, it seems to me, just from what I've heard, maybe I don't fully grasp exactly what's going on here, but it seems to me the cost ought to be more widely shared, and we should be paying 50% with the county funds.
Is this more fire and EMS?
It is, police really, because I think there could be some benefit to police, sheriff, but this is mostly a station alerting solution, so.
So that's probably why is, if Chubbuck pays for their own, and then the only other people that would really use it would be Pocatello Fire and the ambulance district. So it would be the 3 entities that would really be able to utilize it. Bannock County, as a sheriff's office, wouldn't necessarily put into it because we would only be a redundant user if PPD went down as a dispatch area.
Where does the money from this come from?
It'll come from reserves if it's approved, because it's capital.
Okay, so we have the money to do this without increasing any taxpayer ask, or, is that right?
Yes. And actually, I did math on the 5 items you've asked for. So 200,000 for the alerting system, 25 for the match, 49,000 for the staff vehicle, 168 for the remount, and then actually I probably duplicated because I put 100 for the new ambulance.
Yeah,
So I
and that
probably
includes the
duplicated by the
25 match.
25. So if we were to add all of this up, that's $517,000. We've approved capital in next year's budget of $538.
Okay, so we have the money for it.
So we have money to do all of these items, now
Mhm.
that the cost of the alerting system went down by 170. So it would just be a matter of, once the budget's approved, how the board chose to delegate the money
funds.
out. Yeah.
And, okay, so Commissioner Moser, earlier you talked about not,
Yeah, I wouldn't
Voting
vote on
for this
anything
stuff.
right now. I wouldn't,
Right.
because we haven't approved the budget. Until we approve the budget, this is money that's on paper right now, to me.
Yeah, understood. I'm just making sure that you have the information that you need to understand what this system does and the necessity of it.
Well, I still have some frustrations or confusions. We contract with you to provide a service, and now we're adding to the contract, in my opinion. I mean,
I understand that, and I guess the thing I would point out on that is the contract is for cost only. There is no profit that's realized by the city of Pocatello. We only bill for costs incurred with operating the system. And right now, we need a station alerting system for the,
and I agree that you need it, but you need it just as much or more for the fire department as you do for the ambulance.
I would say that it's equal.
Well,
Both agencies need a system to tie the 911 system to the responders. And so I wouldn't characterize either agency as needing it more than the other, regardless of the call volume. This is a radio network that, regardless if the fire department uses it 100 times and the ambulance district uses it 400 times, I still believe that both agencies need the system and that it should just be a 50-50 share.
well, and that's where we disagree. I'll just tell you, plain and simple. Because, like I said, I think we have a contract with you, and that you should have the systems in place to be able to utilize the contract. And, I mean, anytime you keep getting add-ons on a contract.
The issue with that though is capital is covered outside of the contract through the county as part of the ambulance district. So it's not, capital improvements are not necessarily a part of the contract.
And that's where I say the ambulance, so we pay half on this. If we shut down right now and we quit doing the ambulance through City of Pocatello, there are ambulances.
Correct.
We pull them, they're ours, they belong to Bannock County. This system, it doesn't.
And maybe,
But that's what I'm saying, is the difference to me.
and maybe we could address that through somehow the MOU if we buy it, that we would still be able to dispatch through it. I don't know
I
how
just-
that would work. That does complicate it a little bit.
No, I agree with what Commissioner Moser was saying. I think there is quite a bit more discussion to be had on this whole thing.
But we've got 2 weeks to get, the budget won't be approved for 2 weeks, so that could,
I'm not saying that it
Thought
isn't
through more.
necessary, but I'm just saying, I gotta get some of the fog out of my mind. Because as I look at capital, for me, capital is something that, it's a one-time purchase, and if it's Bannock County's, then it's something that we can recoup.
which on paper, this pencils, but it's software, so it's different.
Well, and it is hardware as well. It's servers and
Yeah,
But
we're
it's
radio
going to be tied
links.
into your
Yeah,
fire calls too,
yeah.
so it's not like we could say,
we're
this
taking
one's
this
ours,
with
this
us.
one's yours.
And that's what I'm
So-
saying, like I say, if we decided to go somewhere else and we had the ability, would we pull this equipment out? Well, you can't pull half of something out
Right.
and put it in Bannock County out of the jail.
Would
I'm just trying to figure things out in my own mind. You made a big indent when you said 200,000 instead of 370. I'll just say that.
That does help on the funding side. Because I was part of the reason.
Would the commission be more, would it help if it were a fee amortized over a year or two to cover this cost instead of a direct buy? I guess it still is probably going to come from reserves or,
Well, if we're gonna do it, and we have the monies, we're gonna do it. That's where I'm at. I don't wanna
yeah.
spread it out over a long period of time. I just, like I said, we'll think about it a little more. That's why we have these meetings on a Thursday, and we think about things and evaluate and answer more questions.
Is there any other information that you feel like I haven't provided or that I could provide you that is missing regarding this system or the need or the benefit?
No, one of the big questions I had is are we following procurement rules? I mean, that was a big one to me, and
Yeah.
everybody's shaking their head, and she's just kind of still there.
I like talking about it.
I bet, it's just one of them deals that two entities that have responsibility for taxpayer dollars,
Yeah.
we take it very serious on this side. That's all I can say.
I understand, and I believe I do too, and that's why I'm looking for both agencies instead of one agency building their system and the other agency building their system. I think that there's economy of scale here, and I think that it also contributes to the system-wide, to the future. Certainly is not there, Chubbuck would probably not realize a direct benefit from this right now. But if they chose to go with a compatible system in the future, it opens up opportunities for the whole area.
Who else could tie into this from a regional perspective? Could, say, North Bannock tie into this, or Downey Hill Fire and Ambulance, could they tie into this?
Absolutely, yeah. I think if you don't have a staffed station, there still are some benefits, but the cost versus benefit might not be there for an agency. This system does have an app with it that we're currently using, iSpy. We would be able to migrate to this. So I think there are some benefits for the outlying fire districts. because of the cross-agency dispatching that it opens up, there would be more opportunities for automatic aid or mutual aid without having to be calling and saying, hey, can you send a fire engine to Income, for example? We'd be able to just dispatch that unit. So I'm trying to think big on this and look at how it can improve the whole region's response, not just Pocatello Fire or Bannock County Ambulance District.
So where I'm going with that, as you know, I'm working on potentially consolidating all the fire districts. So having this opportunity gives us one more reason to consider consolidating because it makes us more efficient.
Yeah, and I'd love to be a part of that process, and I know we've had some conversations about that.
Yeah, in fact, I need to talk with you next week about it because things are moving now.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate the time on that, and I hope I was able to address some of your concerns. So, and then go ahead, sir.
Your time's about up. We got other meetings
right.
at 10 o'clock.
I just, I guess I'm feeling like I either haven't done a good job of explaining the wildland deployments. I feel like I'm getting mixed signals about your desire to participate in these wildland deployments. So I tried to put together a packet that really described the process and showed the financial benefit to the district. Last year we did $500,000 in total revenue for EMS deployments, and $119,981 of that went directly to reserves, and that was cost in excess of any of the personnel dollars, the salary and benefits, and so that money would have gone directly to reserves, and that would have been for the use of the EMS asset. That represents 3 ambulance deployments. And so this number more than covers any wear and tear on the vehicles, replacement of tires, or anything which we do under the contract. And so we feel that this is a great benefit to reduce the tax ask by being able to generate some of that revenue to go into reserves to help us for future capital plans.
So, Chief, let's say you, just arbitrary numbers here for discussion, let's say you make $50,000 per deployment. If you went on 4 deployments, then technically that 50,000, so 200,000 could come into the ambulance district for reserve, which then could pay for like this alert sense.
Yeah.
Or not alert sense, but the station alerting.
Correct, yeah, or replacing ambulances as part of our capital replacement plan. It is a benefit, not only, it is a direct financial benefit, I believe, to the district, but it also gives our employees experience on these larger incidents in the incident command structure. It's a great benefit to the system. A lot of these fires last year, most of them were in Idaho. We were up on the Moose Fire. Our people were involved in the helicopter crash up there. The supervisor from that fire came to our department directly to thank us that they were there and that they were able to impact that situation. It really showed great credit to our people and their professionalism and their abilities and our agency for helping out and participating in this process. So,
and how does the revenue from that come? Does that come to Pocatello and then it's a pass through to us?
So what we did last year and what we've been doing, because the checks are traditionally made out to Pocatello Fire, they receive the money over there, and then we make 11 ambulance contract payments throughout the year. We hold off on the last one, and the first part of November, after the fiscal year ends, we get a settlement from the city of Pocatello on how much total expenditures are, and then we pay the difference. Last year we actually had a $35,000 credit balance because of these deployments and underspending. So that was kind of how we realized that. So we didn't have to make that final payment, which is where Chief O'Hearn's $119,000 credit to reserves roll over to credit goes, or to reserves goes. So what I was going to do, pending the approval of doing deployments, because we didn't include anything within our budget this year, or for FY24, I'm going to go over and meet with Jean, make sure that this model still continues to work for the city, and then after that meeting, I'll come back, update the board, and make sure you're in agreement with it. it is actually easier because most of the costs are operational, and we pay that through the contract. Most of the costs are absorbed through there, so it's a little bit easier to just have them keep the money, plus where whichever fire is getting reimbursed, the check is also going to Pocatello Fire, so they just write one check as opposed to 2 checks.
And are you comfortable with the accounting and the split? Or
Yeah.
when was the last time that was reviewed?
I need to get in and we need to do some looking at how all of those are being done. I haven't physically looked at any of the bills that have been sent out or the revenues that have come in.
We generally do it either under the fire budget or the EMS budget. We don't split them and say, well, we're gonna, because we deploy it as a fire resource, which we actually have 2 out right now, or we deploy it as an EMS resource, a single resource paramedic with an ALS kit or an ambulance. And depending on which of those we do, we receipt all that money either under the EMS budget or under the fire budget.
Well, my understanding when Jason and I came and met with you and Christy was that sometimes the check would be for both.
We did one where they took an ALS kit on a fire resource, and so we made sure that the district got the money for the ALS resource, but the majority of the cost was run on the fire. That's rare that we do that.
Okay,
The majority of them are either an EMS asset or a fire asset.
okay. That's where I got that from, is because that's what I remember.
Yeah, so that's it. We do that just to make sure that the city is not realizing revenue from an EMS asset. And so we try to make sure that the person that purchased that asset, the EMS supplies and kit, realizes the revenue for that.
Okay.
But
And I had just assumed that,
Yeah.
kind of like us, if we did a billing, we could
Yeah, we
differentiate
don't-
between the funds.
we actually have one that's going out today that we're gonna do that on, that the EMS system will realize some benefit because they're taking a backpack with some medical supplies,
Okay.
but it'll primarily be a fire.
Okay. So anyways, I'll report back and do a little bit more legwork, look at some actual billings, some reimbursements, and then also get with Gene at the city.
Well, I guess one of my questions would be, if we have the equipment and the personnel extra that we're sending out of county, are we overstaffed? Do we have too much stuff? I mean,
Isn't it traditionally overtime?
It is,
So it's kind
yeah.
of like our sheriffs, when our sheriff does extra patrols, it's overtime. So it's above and beyond.
but if they're off doing that, then they can't be here and fill their shifts. So then you're filling their shifts with overtime too?
And the incident pays for that. The
I-
district is made whole.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. And that's
is-
something, when I go meet with the city, I'm also going to sit down with Heather, their HR director, and talk to her about the personnel side, just to
I just-
cover all the bases.
Everywhere I hear, we're understaffed and we're not paid enough and
But
we
you
work
can
too many
go
hours
overtime.
and,
Right.
and here we are creating more options where we
This is
expect that
all-
out of them.
Outside of their duties, we are definitely not overstaffed. We run 3 ALS ambulances with 18 personnel. And then the district also pays 2 positions that cover in the event of overtime, or excuse me, not overtime, sick leave, vacation, when one of those 18 is absent. When we send these deployments out, the incident pays for them to be replaced with somebody on overtime, and they cover 100% of that cost. So the district staffing level is made whole. And then on the days that the employee is not scheduled, the district pays them overtime. So there really is no impact to a personnel standpoint to the district. They're made whole, and then that $120 an hour, for example, for an ambulance, is realized as revenue to the district to go into reserves.
And then, like I said, when we first started talking about this, we wasn't included in any of the discussions on deployment at all.
And I apologize, I came into this position and we've been doing these for a few years, and until this year, I didn't realize that there was any miscommunication about these deployments. And that's why I'm here today. I just want to be on firm ground with you understanding how these work and be able to answer any questions. And I'd like to be on firm ground that if we get a request for an ambulance, that we could send that out.
Well,
And I'm
just-
happy to to call you and say, hey, we've been requested to go to Salmon, we're going to send an ambulance to Salmon. I just want to bring it to your attention.
Kyle wouldn't send a piece of our equipment outside the county without talking to us. Is my feelings, and if we expect that out of all our other departments, we expect it out of all our departments. So,
I guess then, are you
that's-
telling me you do not want me to send an ambulance on?
no, we'd just like to know about it. We just need to know about it, and so that,
Should I call all three of you, or you, Mr. Chairman, or?
You know, you and I, when I first came on as commissioner, we met and we discussed, amongst other things, these deployments. So I really like the idea of doing the deployments. I think they're a huge benefit for the reasons you mentioned, but I also agree with Commissioner Moser. I think the commissioners just want to know
Absolutely.
when there's a deployment taking place, and I think letting the chairman know,
Actually,
in my
if you
mind,
just-
would be
If you just send an
sufficient.
email to the Bannock County Commissioners.
Well, there
then-
you go.
Then it
Absolutely.
goes to all of us.
That way, if there's ever an insurance claim, and it say happened in Salmon, they know why.
Understood.
So that's another benefit.
yeah.
And granted, it would probably be covered under the deployment, but still, we would see the process.
Understood. And I'll do that. I'll ensure that you're kept up to speed on those.
And I want you to know, it's not that I'm against anything that you're doing, and it's not a personal deal, but when I find things out, I ask the questions, and this is the form that I use to ask those questions. And so, it's nothing personal with
Oh,
anybody.
yeah, and I'm not taking it personally. I apologize that maybe I feel like I need to maybe be at more of these meetings to be available for these, maybe quarterly or something, rather than just when there's an issue that pops
we
up.
would
because
welcome that.
I want to make sure that I'm available and providing you with the information you need.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, if I can make a suggestion on the deployment part,
Yes.
If the board wants to give permission for it to be deployed without having a decision to be made by the board, because I know those can be an emergency, and then just, so he already has that, and then, but if you want to be kept in the loop, then send that email. That way we don't have to worry about him sending an email to all the commissioners for use of the ambulance property, which
Yeah.
could be considered a discussion or anything like that. But if the board is inclined to say, look, if you find within your judgment and reason, to go and deploy this, we understand the emergency, just the process is, you have permission to do this, but you gotta let us know within 24 or 48 hours, kind of what's going on via.
No problem.
That's just a suggestion, so we don't get any.
Well, I think that's the process being used now. You have the authority to do this, and you're doing it when it's appropriate. And the only thing that we're adding in here is an email that says, okay, we sent an ambulance to Salmon.
So why don't we do this, Brian? What if we made a motion to authorize him the ability to do that, not pending, but with notification via email? So that way, it's on the record that we've authorized him to do that, so we're not.
So the decision's already been made, and
Yeah.
he's just gonna update you, so it doesn't seem like he's emailing, the board, and then
For
the decision's
permission.
going that way.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion then that we go ahead and authorize Chief O'Hearn and the ambulance district to go on wildland deployments, wildfire deployments as needed, with the request that they notify the board within 24 hours of a deployment.
Okay. We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, hey, you got one decision made today.
Well, I apologize. Sometimes I'm a little long-winded, but I wanted to make sure that I covered all the bases. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Hi. You got
Oh, yeah.
three of you left.
Mr. Chair, we need to exit the ambulance district.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have 5 minutes, and then we have an on-the-record review.
I can move mine back, so.
So you got 5 minutes.
Can do.
Tell me twice.
Morning, Commissioners. Kyle Burmester, Bannock County Public Works Director. I'm just coming in today to visit with you quickly on an update on grooming, what I've been working on and where we're headed with the grooming. Lately, I've been working with the state, with all the entities that are partners with us on this, but with the state and the Forest Service. Talking with the state the other day, where they're trying to get a new agreement it's the annual operating that we do each year and stuff like that. I'm trying to simplify things, so hopefully that gets done, but it's kind of been going back and forth with Forest Service and state. But hopefully we can get that going so I can get it to review and get that cruising along. Been working on the bylaws, trying to get that more to an advisory committee. Some of these things I have to go with legal on, see how to for sure write that up, but it's gonna change it because of before the board had decisions in budget and all that, and I'm gonna try to get it to where they're advising me on and out there in the public, advising on the trails, trying to get people involved, them kind of things, advising, then I bring any decisions to be made before the board. And I got that pretty close to for review. Trying to get that done. We're still lined up to have some groomer training from some of the people that work at the ski resort. I talked to Brian there at the state, asked him if there was any special regulations or anything I had to do for training, and there isn't. We're insuring it, we're liable for it, so it's our baby anyway. So we will do some training and stuff like that, and make sure that we're gonna have appropriate people running it. Going into staff, what I'm looking at for staff is in-house. I'm looking at the weed operator as grooming.
Kathy?
No. She might ride or something and see. We can see
I'm
what
sure
she
she could
thinks.
handle it.
And some of that, we're gonna, kind of break in slow and see who can do what and stuff. So we have 3 ways where, what I'm looking at is the weed operator that we have, been visiting with that person and stuff, feels comfortable with something like that. I think that would be a good thing for them. Our weed supervisors usually got some things that they're trying to wrap up in the winter and do. But then we have our mosquito supervisor position that I would like to have available for helping when needed there, or depending on what we're doing with the Forest Service, if it's cheaper to have them doing the parking lots, I don't see us changing that at the moment. But if something breaks down or anything like that, we'll have it that we have a pay code. Any employee, whether it's road and bridge or weed, mosquito, they'll put that pay code in that'll charge them out of the weed that I'll have to get with,
Out of the snowmobile.
out of the snowmobile grooming budget. Kind of like we do a little bit with road and bridge and landfill. So they'll just know if they're gonna do any work for that. So it doesn't really matter what department they come out of.
As long as it can fit within the dollars that are allotted.
As long as we're staying on budget.
And the benefit of this is then the hours will actually be charged appropriately for workers' comp too.
So on that, if you're going from road and bridge to go work at the snow groomer, are you paid at the snow groomer wage, or are you paid at the?
Their wage.
Their wage. That's what she's meaning is, if I get somebody that costs a lot of money to have in there, that's gonna pull out my budget faster, so.
Okay. That's why I was just making sure I understood that. And then I might have missed about, how many people are you planning on training to do this, to be available for grooming?
2,
2?
1 mostly, but we're gonna have backup 2.
Okay.
So somebody's gone or something like that. We'll see how, I guess it's got a little bit of seeing how difficult we think it is and some of them things.
And the next year probably regroup if this doesn't work out.
Yeah,
More
and
people
this
or-
is kind of our training year and stuff. So I'm kind of doing a little stuff for emergency backup, and we'll see where we have to go from there. One of them things that I would be looking at doing is come October, getting a more, check out our trails, signage, all that kind of stuff. If there's limbs, points in the trail, that might be a concern or something, and get the people that are gonna operate some knowledge of the area. One part with that, well, I'll go, with equipment, we've took the groomer in, ran it through the shop, we checked all the items, we've ran diagnostics on the mechanical and engine stuff. Everything's, as far as we can tell, is fine. The wear parts, different things like that look okay. There's a couple little minor cosmetic things that they're gonna adjust or fix a little bit, but it seems to be ready to go and nothing's like worn out. Then we checked over the truck. We were worried that there was gonna be more issues with the engine and stuff. We had to fix some hydraulic lines. The engine part was in the fuel system. We've got that fixed with, it's been minimal cost. And then did a diagnostics on it and it shows that it's good to go. So hopefully that equipment's ready to go. We do have some in budget if there is something that we find and that we can hurry and get on and get it fixed as we're going. One thing I was gonna look at is we have a side-by-side that's in Mosquito that I don't think it's utilized, and it's an older one, but it's got tracks too. I was gonna see about look into maybe moving it into there so that they can check trails, or if we had to go get somebody in an emergency or something, it was ready to go. Redo some signage, anything like that, and that could be done in the day.
Utilize.
Stuff like that, and I think it would help utilize it. We'd have to see what the estimated value was and stuff like that, but go through that things.
And I think if you're gonna do that, let's move it out of the mosquito budget,
Yeah.
that piece of equipment.
Yeah. We're going through the storage shed where it was in. We got some cleanup, we got some old oils, different things like that. Gonna get that all cleaned
I'd
up.
like to come out and go through that, look
Okay.
at it myself.
We got
I
all
have
the.
never been inside,
I did it recently.
did you?
Yeah, it just needs some cleaning, and there's some stuff in there that needs,
And it's all Bannock County
Dealt
stuff that's
with.
inside?
yeah.
That piece of equipment that's off to the north side. What is that?
Yeah, that's something like, it's like an old pole type groomer, but I don't know when and ever and was it used? So if you, some of them groomers have, instead of this one just has the whole bar in the back,
Yeah.
they'll have like just a hitch, and so they just pull it, so that, I don't know when it was last used, so we were gonna look at if there's some value or if we needed it, or I don't even know if it's on your list.
Will you see if it's got any kind of serial number or something, and then we can look and see if it's on
Yeah,
our list?
and we're looking into it to see if we can auction it or whatever.
Once we figure out if it's ours.
But that's all I had, is if you had any questions, that's where we're at.
I would like to get the bylaws taken care of. We've gotten a
Get them
couple of
going.
applications for being on this board, but I'd like to have the bylaws that we talk to the
Okay.
people that are applying so that they understand what they're applying for.
Okay,
What they used to be is not what they're applying for. I want that clear when we interview people for this board.
and like I say, I have it done, but I've got it,
Yeah, go through legal, let's
and
look
then
at it.
I'll
and
get
stuff.
it to you as soon as I can.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I think I'm impressed with what Kyle has come up with here. It's much more in-depth than I even imagined, so good job on that.
Good, appreciate it. Yeah.
Nope, good.
All right, thanks. All right, looks like it's 10 o'clock. The on-record review, was this individual showing or just you?
You being me, apparently it's just me.
Okay.
Hal Jensen, Planning Director, Bannock County. You have before you an appeal of council decision relative to a request for setback variance. I would be more than happy to answer any of your questions relative to the record, if you have any. so that you can make a decision one way or the other.
Well, my first question then is, who's the applicant for the appeal?
Gentleman by the name Blake Bundy.
And as I've read through this, the council okayed it, right?
That is correct, with conditions.
With conditions. And the conditions were...
Mr. Bundy is appealing, to the best of my knowledge, he is appealing the conditions, and one of those conditions was a traffic study, a traffic count.
Okay.
Which I think Kyle recommended, so we might want to talk to him.
Well, all we can do is go off what's on the record.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And so, no additional information, no, and so it's a, and just per your statement right there, Commissioner, Kyle from Road and Bridge did say that he was opposed to the setbacks as was requested. And I guess, was that the original setbacks when he was asking for 0?
No. The first, when the application was first submitted, the applicant requested a 0 setback on the side property line. And then, I don't remember the setback that he was requesting adjacent to the front property line, which is adjacent to the road, which is a Bannock County right-of-way, okay? He then amended that and requested a 7-foot side yard setback.
Is it 7 or 9? I thought it was 9 foot.
I believe that it was 7, Commissioner. That's part of what the council went through with some of their deliberations. To the best of my knowledge, Commissioner Crowder, 7 foot on the side yard and a 23-foot front setback from the property line.
And his original was 10 and 0.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And then you come to the next section.
And just an FYI, one of the items in, one of the items for compliance as requirements for a variance is demonstrating that there's no other way and that the physical characteristics of the site restrict the applicant, etc. And so, that said, council deliberated against those particular items, and I believe they approved with conditions, and one of the conditions was that he provide the traffic study at the request of Road and Bridge.
And what will the traffic study provide?
Basically,
Number of cars?
basically daily traffic
I
count.
mean, is that what the traffic study?
They're pretty broad, there's a lot of different things, so part of that. Part of that is Kyle Burmester.
Mr. Chair, I would just, at this point, because probably getting more questions like that would be appropriate if there is a request for reconsideration. I know there is a transcript that's attached to this, so there could be questions coming off the transcript regarding exactly what's in the transcript. I would just say any potential new information we would withhold right now, because it's on the record.
Yeah.
So,
And
and just to be fair, because I don't know what's going to be.
I just asked for a definition of what the traffic study is. Is that not okay? I mean, because we talk about traffic study, so
Okay.
just so I have the picture of what a traffic
Right.
study is. Nothing to do with what's here, but just what does a traffic study entail?
Oh, just like in
'Cause-
general, the definition of it?
Yeah, because what I was looking at as a traffic study myself is this just counting the number of cars that go by?
Right,
Is that what the traffic study is, or is it something different?
right.
Is that,
Yeah, that's, as far as it doesn't go to the question or what the issue was in here.
yeah, I'm not
Getting a
trying to,
definition from staff on what that is would be okay. I just didn't know where that was going.
No, I just-
Information would affect the application at all. That's
because what I ask is that more than just counting the number of cars going by?
Okay,
Then
perfect.
that's my question would be.
So if you just go off of the definition of that, what happens if that is requested through Road and Bridge, is that applicant or whatever comes to there and we decide what level that needs to be. On this one, there is 3 levels. We have before listed out right in the meeting what level we wanted. But a lot of times it's cheaper to just, for them, is to just get with, I need this, this, and this done instead of a full study, because a full study is all intersections, road widths, road construction, bridges, signage. There's a lot to it and it could be quite expensive. So this gentleman's next step would be contacting the Road and Bridge on what study was needed.
Okay. Comments about what's in the packet?
Well, I just want to, I just looked at the transcript here. Excuse me. And so at one point Tristan says, so the application said the side yard to the private drive he was requesting a 0, but now he's requesting 9. And then you say, okay. And then they talk about elk, and that was, Councilmember Ward says from 30 to 10, but now he's requesting 30 to 23 according to the site plan. So my understanding is it's 9 on the side, 23 on the front.
Correct.
Okay. And then of course the request for the traffic study.
So,
And my staff report's in there.
what's that?
My staff report for the variance. Is that in
It
your
should be
package?
part of the record.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, your discussion is part of the record. So to refer to that, it's on page 16 of the transcript. Chair Hill says, okay, now let's discuss if we want to add any conditions. I think the condition of the road study is a good idea, especially if Road and Bridge recommend it, and I'm just going to ask them to confirm that they still recommend it, given the change to the setback request. Burmeister says, I would recommend it. Chair Hill, okay, so I think we should add at least that condition, et cetera.
Okay. Comments?
No, I think this one, do a formal appeal so we can ask more questions and get some new information.
So uphold this and go to a formal appeal.
That's what I would.
Formal appeal is a reconsideration, is that correct?
So that would have to be from the applicant, right? And so if they decided to go that route, then they would have 14 days to file a reconsideration request to the commission.
Okay.
So once the commission makes the decision on the appeal here, it rests until there's an action from someone else to bring it back from the commission.
So, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we uphold the decision as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
All right.
And Mr. Chair, I got where you were going there. I just wanted to make sure
No,
we're
I-
going to
I-
be receiving new information to.
I appreciate that 100%. I no problem with that whatsoever. I just, like I said, want the definition. A little clearer. Well, Shanda.
Commissioner Shanda Christel, Chief Procurement Officer. I have an update for the board's meeting. I'd like to start on the first one with Road and Bridge. We're looking at doing the road salt like we have in the past years. And we were discussing, if you remember, last year was the first year that the winner of the state bid did not allow us to piggyback off of their contract, so we went out to bid ourselves. This year we are looking even more broad than that and earlier on, just to see what our options are. I've contacted the Ada County Highway District. They are currently out to bid. That will close on Wednesday, and so we'll be able to see how their award goes. The state has extended theirs. We are going to ask the winner of that again if they are willing to piggyback or not, just as an option to our Road and Bridge Department.
Ada County does salt.
Could I ask a question here? On these piggyback deals, it sounds like we can ask to be able to piggyback, but it sounds like the company getting the award, they have the option to accept or deny any requests to piggyback. Is that true with all of them?
I am unaware of a bid that requires a vendor to allow others to piggyback off of. It doesn't mean they don't exist.
So it's always the ones that you know of are the vendor's option?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, you build it in that other people are allowed to do it. It's in state code that also allows us to go out as long as it's been publicly bid out. But then that vendor does have the ability to. There's also an exclusion in there that states that, so this company happens to be Compass Materials, is the company that won the state bid. So let's say ABC company here in town is willing to match what Compass bid the state. There's an exclusion in code that says that we can award it to ABC company because they're going to match what was publicly bid. So we do have quite a few options on this one, and so I was.
But the price would not vary, it'd be the same?
Correct, exactly, yeah. It would just be, if Compass told us no, right? Again, right, if they're not willing to allow us to piggyback, if ABC company was willing to go into contract with us for exactly the type of salt and the dollar amount that Compass won the state bid on, we could go into.
When you're doing this, doing these contracts, is there specific language in the original contract that discusses this piggybacking business, or is this by statute, or how does this come about?
So there should be both.
Okay.
Not always do they list specifically in either the solicitation or the contract itself that it's allowable. State code does always have it in there that it's allowable to do that. So then that's when you have to have that additional conversation with the contractor to say, right, are you willing?
Okay. Sometime, let's get together in the near future and look at this. I'd like to see the statute and an example of the contract language.
Okay. That would be perfect. So we're just looking at a couple different paths on that one, and then to see what's best for Bannock County moving forward. Again, for Public Works, we're looking for that engineer pool. There are 3 items that I would just like to bring before the board in regards to the engineer pool. The first, that we are looking at a 3-year, very similar to the surveyors that we did for planning and zoning, a 3-year group as we qualify different engineers for different categories of services, that they will be in there and be able to be used for projects for that 3-year period. It was decided by the group that they would have no new entry. If a company developed a new category within what their current services were, in that 3-year period, we were not going to allow them to ask for entrance into that category, or if a new company, a new player came into town in that time that they were not, they wanted to keep it to the original group and the original set that had applied for those qualifications. I did have some concerns about that, but I think we've addressed them as a group. I was concerned about the timeframes and things like that that companies would have in order to respond to this. And so we have done this one at 60 days will be open, which is more than twice what normally happens. So we'll allow plenty of time for companies, because there will be 7 different categories that they're able to apply for. So that being said, we've given them twice as long as any other solicitation that we have out there, 60 days in order to respond, to get the word out. We're also working very closely with Emma to be able to, any avenues that we can find that they can get the word out that, please come and apply for these categories that we have. So in upping our getting our word out that we're doing this project, word of mouth, the 3 different departments that would most likely use these services are talking to all of their projects that they currently have to let them know. So I do believe that this would be fair and equitable, that we're giving everybody a chance to be in this, and we're letting them know from the get-go, if you don't try to qualify this time, it's going to be 3 years before you're allowed to qualify again.
And that's not at our request, that's at their request to limit it to 3 years.
No, that is ours. We have never, so 3 years was a nice middle ground. In previous years, the board has been very strict about being 1-year contracts, 1-year things without renewable options. And then as we have strengthened our language in our contracts, as we strengthen our solicitations that we go out for, our processes, we have been allowed to broaden that out a little more and potentially receive savings. The janitorial is one that recently happened, that we will realize savings because it will be the same contract price for the next 3 years. It won't automatically add 10% or something.
And that's the same with this engineer pool, it's a stable price for 3 years?
No. So for engineer services, architectural services, landscape, architectural, construction management, they are governed under a different code that is based off qualifications. So what we're asking in this solicitation is just what experience do you have to bring to the table that says that you can do the jobs that we're asking you to do. If we both agree that yes, this is the job, and yes, you have the skill set to do that job, then you're qualified to be in the group. And then as the county has a project that, great, now we need to go and engineer a culvert design. Great, we are going to go, and I don't even know what engineer service is under that, but we would go to that category, say, great, ABC company, you are next on the docket. Do you have time and space in your capacity to do this project? If they agree, then they propose a price. On any of these professional services, that is how code set up, that it won't be, we can't discuss price till after you're qualified to do the project. If for any reason that price was astronomical and outside of what we could do, if the company did not have the space in their schedule to complete the project, we would say no thank you, and we would go to the next engineer in the pool.
If the first engineer you go to says, okay, we want to do this for $100 an hour, and we think that's reasonable, we would just give them the contract?
Correct. And then
And so we'd have no idea if engineering company 2 or 3 might be able to do it at $80 or $70.
Correct. It would just be if we did not accept their price, if we did not feel that was reasonable for the work that we were seeking, then we could say that would cancel our negotiation, say no, we did not come to an agreement, and we would go to the next one on the docket.
But wouldn't we have the option that you could put it out to the pool of people to get prices? To make sure we were getting the best price to help Commissioner Crowder feel better?
So I could review code.
I think that what would happen though, in that situation, I think the pool process, if we don't have our own engineer, the pool process allows those individuals to keep in the pool and be willing to keep coming.
Yes.
If we go from the pool and then, okay, now you have to bid every time, people are gonna quit being in the pool. And then we're gonna be stuck with one, and then the price is gonna go up. I mean,
Because that's what we've got right now, is we just have traditionally probably used the same person over and over.
Mm-hmm.
we've tried our own engineer, we've tried the different things, and I think that.
But I can look and review code to make sure. I am just uncertain if we can. I would lean to say that code just says that we can't price shop these specific professions.
I wasn't trying to throw you a curveball, I was trying to help.
Right.
Which maybe didn't.
Normally, all engineering groups will give you their annual rates each year.
Okay.
It could be as easy as that we know what the rates are, so we would have that. Most of them do for us and stuff, here's our annual rates, and that just says particular to every one of their positions, what it is per hour.
Okay, but currently though, we've got that solicitation set up that we would take the first company, and then as they had that project, we would go to the second company for their project. That we wouldn't always go to whoever was going to be
To the cheapest.
the least expensive labor.
Well, I struggle with seeing the advantage to this, especially if you can't add another, if a new engineer comes to town, you can't even put them in for 3 years.
So why we headed down this path was to lessen the time to go out to bid. So instead of going out to bid for each individual project that they do throughout the year, we go out to bid once, we gather up all of those that are qualified to do the work, and then as we have projects come up, then great, we already have you on docket, then we just can roll the projects quicker.
So to maybe tag on that, if we changed it from a 3-year to a 1-year, and I appreciate the fact that we're trying to be a little more expedient, but that would allow a new guy in town to be able to join the pool the following year, and that would help us collect the new rate sheets every year instead of being locked in for a 3-year period.
The only reason why we're looking at the 3 a little bit was because of if somebody knows that they're gonna get on your list, they'll try to make their deal a little better for you, because they know that's not a one-time, see you later kind of thing.
Yeah, but she said she couldn't talk about price at all.
So could you, if part of it, so we do the assessment of each one to put them on the list, and could you have, besides their qualifications, their rates too? So I mean, it's a package, it's not just going off of that, but you might have somebody that's more qualified but is more money, but they might be your number one.
And sometimes it might be worth it, depending on the job.
Yeah, and so that be part of that, vetting them out of who you want.
So it cannot be a part of the evaluation for sure. Idaho code says no. You cannot, based on rates for those professional services, no, it cannot be part of that. However, once qualified, I wonder if then we could, well,
What if it was just informational? You're still going off of just the qualifications, but informationally, you would know what
This
you're
sounds
gonna-
like dealing with conflicts to me.
I mean, you're just looking at what it is, but we would know right off the bat that you're gonna pay more for them if they're your number one pickup.
I can review that for sure, that I don't know. I do know that cost cannot be evaluated as part of the qualification.
Why don't you and John get together, go over where you're at and stuff, and then let's talk about it again. So that we know exactly what the code says and.
And you're not trying to just rattle stuff off.
I appreciate that.
You're doing well, you're doing well, but.
It's a little easier to be prepared when asked a question.
Right, great. I love it. That would be perfect. We're not quite through. We did our most recent version back out to the group. The group is Kyle and Hal and Dan are the 3 departments that we use it most frequently throughout the year.
Okay.
It does state in there that any major projects, like the wellness complex sewer revamp, any of those projects as defined by the county are bid out separately. So those would not be part of the pool. So like large projects would be done individually.
Yeah. You visit with John and then we'll reevaluate it.
Excellent.
The public works projects.
The next one that I'd like to review is not on your list, and that was just due to timing, as I submitted this to get on your agenda, and as the project was proposed, and it's then going to be due next Thursday when we meet again, so I wanted to make sure to bring that to your attention. Sheriff Manu got with me and has a landscaping project that we would like to do an informal bid on to remove the grass and put in rock. And that will be posted later on this morning, and then due next Thursday and open next Thursday. As part of there's a statement in there that it's the company that has to have it done by September 29th, which is the last Friday in our fiscal year. So it's going to have to be a company that can move quickly.
We actually looked at that area when we went out and did the last gel inspection. And stuff, so. Get rid of grass and water.
Right? Yes. He's excited to get rid of the water bill.
Why keep paying water bill for something that.
Okay. So that one will move forward.
Quick note on the janitorial contract for next year. That budget was revised.
Oh, okay.
While it's not approved, it was revised to $130,000.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
And after watching last week's meeting, that might be helpful to know.
Yeah. For you. Yep. That'll be perfect. I'll get that adjustment made. Thank you. Unless there are any other questions?
What about this janitorial contract? 817 award recommendations?
Right. There was a slight delay in getting that evaluated. I appreciated the evaluation team that was put together came forward with a potential conflict. So then as we got with legal, if that was defined as a conflict of interest for that individual, it was deemed that it was not, and they were able to move forward, but it did delay the group from completing what they needed. So it'll come before the board next week.
Okay.
Dan and I still feel that that's plenty of time to get an award out and have that team notified and ready to move by October 1st.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman, we need to recess for a couple of minutes.
I think